you're only going to get better as you do it more.
Yeah.
If you wait until it's like, okay, all my dollars are right here, and if this doesn't work, then I got to quit and go, work at Target. Like, that's not going to work, because you can't expect anything to shake out like that, where like the first time you try it without a lot of practice, you're going to win. Like, it doesn't work like that.
You are now listening to the Creative Juice podcast, brought to you by Entrepreneur.io.
What's up, indies? Welcome back to Creative Juice. This is part 3 of our 3-part episode on music business plans for 2020 between myself and my co-host Corrin, who is with me because she's always with me for Creative Juice. What's up, Corrin?
Always, except for those couple, but we won't talk about it.
I figured I'd change around the order in which I say those things.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I got to add some spice to our lives.
Totally.
Yeah, everything is good. It's great, man. Like the new year has not rubbed off on me yet, where I'm like, oh, it's just January. Like, I'm still feeling energized and like I'm still doing something new. So I'm stoked on all the things.
Very nice. Well, yeah, this 3-part episode has been all about sort of Corrin and I's plans for our own music for 2020, and hoping to serve as like a model for you guys to, plan out your own music careers. The episode 1 was all about the production of the music, where we kind of talked about how we're planning on getting what amount of songs done, what our creation workflow is going to be like. And then the second episode was about finances. So how much we're planning on spending in order to get this music created and promoted. And this episode is all about the marketing, which, that's what most of the episodes here at Creative Juice are about. We figure we save that for last. And so this episode is going to be all about us, going over our plans for marketing our music in 2020. And hopefully you can use, sort of what we're doing as a model for at least not to be intimidated when you plan out what you're doing, or you can borrow some of these concepts yourself.
Yeah.
Before we get started, I just want to let you guys know that this episode will also be streaming in video format on our YouTube channel. So if you listen on iTunes or Spotify usually, go check us out on YouTube, where we're also kicking up a documentary series about sort of the creation and marketing of the songs here at Orlando HQ called The Grounds. So that's currently underway. And if you go and check out our YouTube channel, you can not only see the video version of this podcast, but also check out episode 1 and maybe even 2 of The Grounds by the time this podcast comes out, I believe.
Nice.
So definitely check that out. And then also, as always, we have an exclusive membership available for any of you listeners out there who have sort of been like, man, I want a step-by-step view of what these guys talk about on this podcast. I would love to just be walked through kind of some of these strategies and get them set up for my career. Well, you can do that in our Indie Pro membership, which comes with over a dozen trainings now. A vault of trainings that are constantly being updated. And we have tons of plans to add more this year, which we'll be talking about in the coming months here on Creative Juice. And there's just like way more than just that vault of trainings. So there's a lot. And you can check it out if you go to the show notes, entrepreneur.io/episode 118. And you'll see in the show notes a link for Indie Pro. You can check it out and see if it'll be helpful to you this year for your music career. Because today we're going to be talking about putting some of those strategies to use. I know Corrin's got a lot of plans for her music, and I'm very excited to hear them. I think she's gone all out with planning out her marketing.
I'm excited to hear about yours, though.
Yes.
So we're
rock and roll.
We are mutually excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, I think this is something too that, I mean, it's when you live in marketing all the time, as we do at Entrepreneur, it's very difficult because part of you is like, how can I do this the very best? And then there's like 2% of your brain that's like, all the indies are going to watch me fail. So I was like, but I wanted to embrace that because I think I wouldn't want to change it this time because people who care about marketing might be watching. Because I've always been an experimentalist, right? I've always wanted to take risk. I've always wanted to be like, let me throw a chunk of cash at something that I might even be skeptical will work. And then see if I can force it to become something good. And that's, like, who would have thought that MySpace and PayPal would have done that, right? Like, I mean, it seems like an easy concept now, but at the time, people are like, you're bonkers. You're going to ship those yourself? What's wrong with you? So, I think there was a small portion of me that was like, man, when I tell people about this, they're gonna be like, why are you spending money on that? And, and it's because I wanna, I think that I've compiled a list of things where I know it's experimental and I know the things that I think are going to be like the fail-safe. But there's some of each. And I think that's how every release should be as soon as you have the wiggle room to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that just in general, like it's good to be spending a predictable, portion of your budget on experimental ideas, entrepreneurial ideas.
Right.
And that goes with your time as well as your money. So it goes with all your resources. But you do want to keep it in that box and know that you're doing it for that reason and how much you're committing. And so I definitely have a fair amount of that planned out for my year. I don't know how to approach this. We could go, hold on one second. Oh, hey, man.
What's up, man?
Pretty loud. Fuck. So I don't know how to go about this. I figure there's not really a good trade-off in terms of how I've planned out talking about mine. So we could start with yours and go to mine, or start with mine and go to yours. How do you want to do this?
Whatever. I mean, so maybe this could be fun. What if we first talk about the things we're doing that people might expect? I don't know if yours mine go categories this way.
Yeah.
But maybe we could do the things that people are expecting and then the things people may not expect us to be spending money and time on.
Sure. Yeah, we could totally do that.
And then we'll trade.
Yeah. Rock and roll.
We'll trade off.
So we talked about in the sort of finances episode that I fully expect this to be a loss, or rather, I fully expect this year to be an exercise in investment and not in harvesting, benefit. I don't think I'm an ROI. But here's what I want to do. I want to point this entire year towards a future result for next year. So most of my efforts this year are going to focus on building up warm audience for subscription. And I might even get into subscription this year. But really, my eyes are on a digital membership in 2021. And for that reason, I mean, a mix of digital and physical, but I really want to get to a place where it's like, look, I make content, all day, every day. And if you just sign up to this thing, you pay a small amount per month, you get access to all of it. And there's really no cap on what I'm going to create. Sort of like a Patreon, but except that I'm not going to get screwed by Patreon for fees. So, and so we've done that for a few people in IndieX, like Dave Pettigrew has a membership that we just built for him. Small Town Titans have their own membership now. And it's something I'm experienced with, built our membership, Indie Pro. And I think I want to point towards that. So most of my efforts are focused on how do I build a relationship with fans that happens on a weekly basis and they expect it to happen? How do I get up my content production engines firing on all cylinders to a point where I'm not going, because what a lot of bands do is they'll go all right, we're going to do a digital membership. We don't have any experience putting out multiple videos and audio files weekly, but we're just going to do it. And I'd rather be already there when I launch my membership. So by the end of this year, I want to have recurring content in place with an audience that comes back to see it every single week. Some of them are starting to subscribe to get earlier access to that content. And yeah, it's a lot of building warm audience, building initial subscriber base for email, and focusing all of the activity of how we interact with each other on recurring content. So it's a lot of nurturing and education. And for that reason, I'll be doing a lot of green light warmth boosting, which Corrin's actually building a training on that right now. And that'll be coming later on in end of quarter one / beginning of our actual quarter, which is around March. So you can expect it more towards the spring. But that's going to be one of my main strategies is I have my strategies like Fan Finder, for getting new attention. I'm going to be creating a lot of fan finder videos, but I'm going to be using Greenlight warmth boosting to get those new fans I'm creating involved in my recurring content. And by the end of the year, I want to have so many of them involved that it's a natural extension to go to a digital membership.
Yeah. I feel that, man. I mean, it's so funny. Like, we say this however many times a year, but, content doesn't get old. And it especially doesn't if you don't put it out in the public and have it somewhere gated, So whether that's a paid membership or whether that's through, as lead generation, right, as something to offer your fans so that, you can get their contact information. Either way, there are ways that you can make this content perpetually good. I mean, if you're someone like me who changes your hair color for every album cycle, it might start looking a little dated.
Yeah.
but that's still, it doesn't matter. If the first thing that someone sees of you is an album cycle that's 2 album cycles ago, but you're still running ads and finding new people and excluding all of your existing traffic on it, it doesn't matter, So I think that's really smart. There's especially the more, and we talked about this last time as well, but the more that you can like garner up a big old bucket of people, keep them entertained so that they're not bored, but keep them entertained, keep them involved, keep yourself at kind of the front of their attention. Then when you actually put something out and have something to sell, you get a whole avalanche instead of being like, okay, well, we're going to start now and things will trickle in. And then eventually it'll be something that is making me enough money where I care.
Yeah.
I think because you definitely never want to be that guy.
It's also like, we get a lot of artists who are like confused as to what they should offer for subscription or offer for sale. And it's like, I think Dave Pettigrew is one of my favorite examples of someone who like what they do at the free level and what they do at the creating fans level is not dramatically different. It's not a jarring shift when you get to their like sort of premium level.
Right.
Like if you are such a fan that you want to support the music, you don't have to onboard to a whole new set of behavior and expectations. It's the same behavior, the same expectations that were set for you as you became a fan. And
right.
So whether you're coming into one of his Monday devotionals where you're meeting tons of other people and, kind of celebrating your faith together while he plays music, or you're at the very highest level of fanship with Dave and you're taking a retreat with him to do the exact same thing, you're doing the exact same thing. And
right.
It's just at a higher level. So I took note of that, and especially noted how like so many of our indies have trouble with that. And that's why I want to really think of the long term. Like, where do I want to end up? Do I want to end up with an exclusive clothing line? Okay, I got to start conditioning people to like exclusive limited edition drops and start creating that user behavior. If I want people to be involved in a digital membership, I need to onboard people to checking for me every week and enjoying like recurring serial-based content. And so that's where I'm at.
Well, and the great thing about a release strategy, and something that I've been having fun with mine, is that you can batch up so much content that by the time you're actually having to think about, okay, I'm marketing this and I'm going to release and I'm going to do all these things, like that content is already done, right? Optimally. So that way you've got this content batched, but also your attention can go into the live engagement that's going to be coming from it, because that's, a job in itself. So, I think that's something that, especially, a lot of indies will try to take their funnel evergreen, as we like to call it. And the biggest problem that we've seen when people have trouble going evergreen is that they aren't paying attention to the people who are coming in, and they're doing it on a much smaller budget, which means they have a much smaller amount of traffic, which means that they have to check in more frequently, right? And consistently every day to catch those people in a timely fashion where they're still excited. So, that's one thing that it's good to like get all of this content, anything that you're planning on putting into pre the release and post release, batch as much of that as you can so that you have even more content that's coming from you actually live, and you can foster the relationship with your fans while they're all jazzed up on all of it.
Yeah, it's interesting too, like your audience, like your audience will go cold in like the if you're only focused on launch creation, like you can't really get to this certain level as a business. Like, you know what I mean? And that's true for marketers. Like there's in the marketing world, like doing product launches over and over, like it's literally thought of as something that you need to get over at some point. And like everyone's got their own little solution to like the product launch cycle or whatever. And so that can happen to like any business that gets focused on this sort of like ebb and flow kind of rhythm to their business. And so, yeah, like one way to fight that is definitely recurring content. It's definitely like having an archive of content out there, having a thing that's ongoing, like a TV show, like a, radio show, like something that people tune into on a weekly basis is super important. Yeah. And if you can onboard your fans to that behavior, it also takes a lot of the heavy lifting off of email and messaging. It takes a lot of the heavy lifting off of retargeting, because it's like it's not as likely that people are going to fall through the cracks.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And so that's kind of where I am at. My actually pre-orders are going up for my project on February 2nd.
Oof.
I know, yeah.
Very soon.
Yeah, really soon. And so I've been, putting out teasers to different people who have these different closed areas of, gated parts of my site. My site is still just like a landing page, website coming soon, which is obviously going to, it's probably predictable. It's going to launch on the same day as the pre-orders. That's before there's not even going to be any audio available yet. Like they have no idea. They know that this is a greatest hits record. So they know that there's going to be obviously, tongue-in-cheek references to previous songs. But other than that, that's it. And I'm doing it that way because, as I was talking about last week, I have a healthy segment of people who are going to buy it no matter what. So I don't have to tease it. I don't have to accompany a release with it. But, and I'm going to keep some of the details to myself because a couple of my fans do listen to this podcast, even though they're not musicians and don't care about marketing. So I'm not going to put like every single thing out there. But I am, so I'm releasing, I have this pre-order coming in. I'm doing packages that have clever names. So I'm not doing like, gold, silver, platinum packages, where I'm just bundling up and up and up. I'm actually creating, there's going to be the fashionista package, which is going to be like a lot of apparel and really trendy kind of things. And then there's utilitarian, which is going to be, stuff that's very practical, including the music itself. It's a little more of a basic package. And there's more and more like that have names, that will make it kind of a fun thing. And there's only going to be one package that is every single thing that I'm making, and that's going to be the VIP, which is a little bit more typical. But those are all going to go on sale, with previews of all the merchandise, and these limited edition versions of the album, which is not going to be, that's not going to be unveiled. Those are all going up on February 2nd. So from there, then I am releasing singles every 3 weeks, one from the remix album, and then one from the cinematic album 3 weeks later, and then another from the remix album, and then another from cinematic. So this entire dual disc is not actually going to be out, fully out, until over a year from now. So if people want the music now, they gonna have to buy it.
Right.
Yeah. And that's not to hold them, it's not extortion, as much as it's like, look, I want you to experience this in a very specific way. If you just want these tracks, like you can get the tracks on Spotify when they come out on Spotify and have fun with that. But if you want to experience this as a work, as a full piece of art to, all as one album, and have this like video stuff that goes with it and the merch that goes with it and all this other stuff, this is how you get it. And so, yeah, that's kind of my plan as far as rollout's concerned. There's a ton more with, just kind of touching back to what Cirque's talking about. I am going to have gated content that's, like a membership area. And that's almost built. I'm kind of like, because I'm a little behind on that part. So, I'm behind on all of it, but but so there is gated content. So the content that I have and that I'm still gathering is being kind of put into trailers. And so a very small chunk of this content is going to be put out in ads and running out there to people who aren't in the membership area. And the full versions of the same content, but not in a trailer format and in a long format, will be available on the site, along with other, like vocal demos and exclusive things. So it's not really an album launch per se. But I am doing the opposite of what I tell every indie to do, which is I'm putting out these singles, and each single is its own release pattern and has its own budget, which is why my budget is so huge. But it's all culminating until into this bigger thing, right? So it allows me to keep gathering new people, keep that low-hanging fruit interested if they haven't purchased yet, and still be giving a ton of value to the people who have purchased so that they feel like they're ahead of the game. So it's really trying to please all the people at all the levels and continue to churn them in, because I have a huge warm audience, but they're actually lukewarm, right? Because it's been a hot minute since I put out anything really, really new. So yeah, that's kind of where my whole thing is going with all of these releases.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Well, that definitely gives you, a lot to sort of focus on. And I like the idea of taking like a individualized approach to all the records, because that's like the main downfall of albums these days, is not being able to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm following along in that vein. I've aligned sort of like my release schedule and all the content with sort of full stack creative. So doing full stack creative all through 2019 showed me like, if you can bring content on a weekly basis on YouTube, you can gain an audience pretty quickly. And I kind of know how to like get some videos in there without compromising artistic integrity that will rank for search. So that's kind of like a major goal of mine, is to use YouTube around this release. And like products get searched. So if you're in a niche community like filmmakers or musicians and you're using a certain product, like it's easy to rank for that product, usually. More easy than people might think. So I kind of want to...
You're going straight up SEO on this.
A little bit,
It's amazing, because I'm always...
Yeah.
People are always asking like, oh, what do I need to do for SEO? And I'm like, don't worry about SEO.
As long as you rank for your own
like,
name,
if
it's
they're
all good.
Googling you, it's because you sent them there.
Yeah, this is strictly
but
YouTube
that actually
SEO,
is pretty smart.
Yeah, it's sort of more like
Yeah,
hashtags, right? If you think about it like that as a...
Yeah.
But yeah, so really, because like I'm creating... So we have the documentary series on Full Stack Creative called The Grounds, which is a behind the scenes of all of this, of creating the music, of marketing it, of creating the videos. During that, though, I have to get acquisition for every writing session, every production session, every video we shoot. So then I have BTS like footage acquired. So I'm going to have like terabytes of footage of the creation of each song that I end up releasing. And so the goal is to go back in whenever I'm releasing a song and basically shoot A-roll. So like I'll take the footage I have, create a script around it, and then use A-roll, like just footage I shoot after the fact, to piece together these shots as like a story, and then release that as BTS for the song. So I'll be able to produce 1-minute segments for Instagram, longer segments for YouTube, and then, not to get into the experimental stuff, but some stuff for TikTok as well. So to be able for each song, I'll be able to spin out all this content, which is important because I want it to be in the vein of like full stack creativity, and I want to encourage people to be creative like through the music. So this kind of ties in with like what I mentioned about not having copyrights for these songs, or rather legally relinquishing the copyright. So basically the plan is that if anyone wants to use any of the music in like a YouTube video or an Instagram video for themselves, or a TikTok video, or sample it, anything, they totally can. And if they want the stems for the song, and they want to sample it, and so basically like what I'm going to do is for every song, if I'm creating a video, then I have a session. I have like a Premiere Pro project. I have an Ableton session. We have all these different assets that we can release. And if they sign up for the email list, they can get all those assets. They get all the footage. They can get the LUTs. They can get stems and stuff. And with just basically a general release of like, look, credit us if you use any of this stuff, but you're free to without paying any money. As much as I can, I want to do that. So I'm probably not going to be able to do that for all the songs, but like I want to do a few for that. And that'll be a great way to drive subscription. And so the goal is to create a community around sort of like this music and video creation with all this BTS content on a pretty consistent basis, but then have this deeper layer of like, if you sign up, you can get a lot of the assets from the creation of this, remix it, put your own spin on it, that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of things we can do there. We can do presets, we can do LUTs, create a synth preset, give that away. There's a lot that can be done there.
Yeah, for sure. That's so interesting too, because it's really, it's elevating the required audience for that. You know what I mean? Like it's going to require people to like have, or not require, but it's going to encourage your audience to be smarter people because they're going to be people who are interested in that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
So, and it's a community builder. Instead of wrapping a community around you the way most artists do, you're wrapping a community around the things that you're like, hey, I find these valuable. Do you find these valuable? Do you like doing this stuff? Are you interested in these things that we're doing? And I think that's cool actually, because it's very different from what we typically think of as an artistry, where it's like, okay, here's the person, they are the sun, and all the things orbit around them. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're kind of making it a bigger mission statement than that, which I think that's cool. It's just different from a lot of how you see records being promoted.
Yeah, it should give people, like, I know a broad majority of people that we are able to generate, especially with like Fan Finder as the main promotional vehicle for new attention. There's not going to be like a large preponderance of like producers or, film editors or anything like that. But at the very least, if people know, like, look, what's unique about this is that you can use it in anything you make and there will be no problems. So make something, like, hopefully inspires people to make more stuff. Even if they're not like, a creative.
Right. Well, and you might be the person who brought them there.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
In that phase of their life where they're like, oh, yeah, dude, if I don't have to learn this from scratch and I can use these things and splice them together, and then your artistry has become this like inspirational tool for them to elevate themselves in their own life. I mean, I think it's brilliant. I think it's really cool.
And it'd be dope if it works for getting a lot of like really engaged email subscribers who are there every week for like the download pack as well. It'd be dope.
Yeah, that's cool.
But also it's like, then also they're getting conditioned to digital products, which is really the whole goal here. It's like they download stuff. It has a value associated with it. It comes on a weekly basis. We're starting to get into that digital membership territory.
That's funny. It's kind of the opposite of where I'm going, because I am, through my release strategy, encouraging the hard product, right? Like you're only going to get the songs if you buy the hard product, or at least for the next 18 months,
Yeah.
Or you're only going to, have access to these certain things through physical means, right? Like this is what's going to unlock these things for you. Even if it's digital content, it's still through a physical medium for the most part. So that's kind of cool. We're running opposite roads there.
Yeah, we presented a nice juxtaposition across this episode arc.
Yeah, and we didn't do it on purpose. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, yeah, so I think that, for me, that kind of rounds out the gist of like how this release pattern is going to work.
Yeah.
And then, I think for mine, it's like there's like a sense of scarcity, words. There's a sense of scarcity, to like kind of get people into like the actual like purchase kind of mode.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. But then there's also like a plethora of stuff of digital promotion, of campaigns, of sources. So do we want to talk a little bit more about how we're actually like the kind of campaigns and content for those campaigns that we're going to use?
For sure. Yeah. A lot of my stuff is
already.
a lot of my stuff is like on a weekly or bi-weekly basis type stuff rather than like these sort of like tentpole efforts. So,
right.
You know, just to make that clear, like I don't have a whole lot of big pushes except for what I hope will be a summer and a fall pack throughout the year.
No, but you're going to be running stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
yeah.
like even your green light warmth boosting, those are campaigns, right?
Yeah.
So that's all I meant. I just wanted to not like a release campaign, like the literal campaigns on the different platforms and things is what I was thinking.
Well, yeah. What are you doing? What are your campaigns this year?
Well, my campaigns, I mean, I rest so much on my mailing list. It's not even funny for a lot of my regular music income throughout the year. So, and I use a lot of gated content, like I've said many times. So, you know, part of it is just going to be that my fan base is really great at like street teaming or like the referral advocacy stages of things. So I'm definitely with the membership content running a, hey, share this with people. And if you do, you can unlock this stuff, kind of gamifying it in that way, as well as like giving little badges to people, the way that Facebook groups puts badges on people, but mine will be much more just like hand selected. They're not automatic, and, you know, running like little contests. So right now I'm still kind of thinking about how I'm going to do that because I know, you know, there's a lot of tools out there that'll run contests for you. But, you know, every contest I've run in the past has been very hands-on where I'm doing social listening myself, you know, and really just tallying up things manually. And partly I do that because I really want to know my people, you know, and I've always been really invested in figuring out who these people are, how they talk, all of that stuff. So I'm still wrestling with, okay, am I going to, you know, do this through Viper or something that makes it more manageable? That's something that I'm struggling with because I know that that's what I need to do.
Viper's great for loyalty. It's so good.
I know.
On Black Friday, I think we had an annual Viper and we went to lifetime for less money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got it if you want to do that.
I mean, I know. Yeah, I know. It's just one of those things where, you know, like for a while I had like my Twitter top 5. And it's funny because we always talk about how Brazil is such a rough country to advertise to. But before I ever advertised, I had a huge basis in Brazil. And a lot of in fact, most of my Twitter followers are Brazilian. And I learned Portuguese so that I could try to talk to them some. And a lot of the times in my Twitter top 5, I was socially listening. I was, you know, looking at my mentions. I was, you know, searching tweets and, you know, kind of tallying things up. And a lot of times it was like, you know, those people were on my top 5, but I would follow them back and then I would, you know, it wasn't that great of an offer.
Right.
They just wanted me to follow them.
Right.
So, and they were on a special list and I promoted like, here's my, you know, Twitter top 5 list and almost like a MySpace, like top 8 kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where I would tell people, these are my 5 favorite people on Twitter. So, you know, I'm just so used to doing things like that. And it is why, you know, when you start your music career in a place where nothing is automated, which I know is probably a lot of indies, and you learn to do it in a really bulk fashion, it can be difficult to let go of it because you feel like that's your lifeblood. Like that's why you know why your fans love you and what they want from you and whatever. So it's more that I'm struggling with.
You're saying Twitter?
No, just like running your own, like not automating your contests, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Basically having to count tweets or count mentions or use social listening, which is just a fancy word. I mean, there's a lot of machines that do it out there, but basically it's just looking for hashtags and looking for whatever. And it used to be way more simple than it is now. But, you know, just managing a contest manually,
Yeah.
and having people send you screenshots of things and having whatever. So that's something that I got to get over. So, but then anyway, that's just a small piece of what's going on. But I do think that, I'm really excited to kind of activate this referral advocacy level of the buddy system, because it's been a hot minute since I really did something big with that. I've done it for like little merch sales and stuff like that over the past few years, but I'm going to do big stuff with it this time. So a lot of my initial marketing is going to rely on unpaid stuff. And my margins on my merch are great because I'm doing almost all of it myself. Even the limited editions are just standard versions of the CD that I'm having made, and then I'm altering to make them limited.
Nice.
So what it's doing is it's front loading my marketing and all my capital at the beginning so that I can then pump all this cash into these individual releases that will all have their own content and their own video and their own campaigns. And so that's kind of, the beginning of the campaigns are almost exclusively organic.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, for me, my like sort of setup, it doesn't really start until I would say March is when like I'll be able to put out my first actual single, maybe late February. And so what I did recently is, and there's an episode about it on our YouTube channel it was the first episode of The Grounds, where it was like, okay, we did 2 weeks of like music on Thursdays and Fridays, like music blocks, and I didn't get anything done, and it's because I wasn't organized. So I made an Asana board for my songs, and I started to get a hold on it, and now I can see when songs will be finished, like where they are in the pipeline and stuff. And so
cool.
When that starts, the goal is to have a long form behind the scenes piece of content, like 12 to 15 minutes, and have that accompany. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin out shorter forms for IGTV and Instagram. I'm going to be really focusing on Instagram, where it's going to be every single song. I'm going to have some form of like Instagram focused story content from that behind the scenes footage, and then an actual post with long copy. And then in between those, I'm also going to, whenever I finish a writing session and I have a song that I really like, I'm just going to do live performances, because I've been doing that on my Instagram, my personal one. And it's been working out. Like, people really respond to the songs once they're finished. So people really like them. And I think I'm going to keep doing that. This is kind of my Instagram strategy and a YouTube strategy. And then also Facebook. I'm not going to try to point people from Instagram or Facebook to YouTube. So the full YouTube video is going on Facebook. It's going on IGTV. It'll be available wherever people are. And then my goal to grow that is just all fan finder campaigns on the traditional side. Fan finder campaigns bring in new fans. They check me out on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, and they find everything they need to know. All the songs that we put out are on Spotify, and that happens on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, is that content comes out. I'll have shooting A-roll, like if I'm going to go and like, okay, this week we finished this song. Okay, I have all of the footage that's related to that song in one folder already. Open up Premiere, cut some A-roll dialogue, and then slap that in Premiere and put the B-roll footage behind it and create a little piece of content. That's ready to go. And then I just do different renders of that. That's all my content for this song. And then I'm doing that regularly. So it's all archiving on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. And then all the new attention is finding out about that. At some point, we're going to roll out, hey, if you sign up, you'll not only hear about this content early, but you'll also get, assets from these projects, and you can use those to create however you want to. You also have a license for using the tracks in like your own videos and stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's
cool.
I hope it is, but I'm relying a lot on organic Instagram to kind of like house an audience and build a community, is to have these more long form posts and really just see what that does.
Right.
I want to get like a personal profile up to swipe up by the end of the year. So that's a lot of that's going to rely on that and a lot of advertising on the platform. And then on my non-traditional side, I'm going to be doing influencer campaigns this year. I'm going to at least be trying it. So I'm going to be doing Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok influencers. I have a list of them already. They're these like repost pages.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're so basically there's these pages that will repost people and are like, oh my God, like I can't believe their voice. It's supposed to be like the candid, like talented friend type video. And it's exactly how I might run a fan finder, except someone's doing it organically, and it's gangbusters. So I hit up a few of these pages, and they were like, "Here's the price. We have these pages." I was like, "Oh shit, there's a whole economy going on with this. All these teenage singer kids are paying these people's fees." But you go to their page, and there's no funnel in place. There's no offer. There's really nothing to capitalize off of it. So I was like, maybe I can do that. So that I'm going to be using that to build those channels and see if I can make some results there. But really the whole goal is to build up YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram followings and then email. If I have retargetable audiences and followings there for recurring content, it's an easy transition to email. And then by the end of the year, I'm in a place to start offering products and tripwires into a digital membership. And that's my campaigning.
Wow. Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah, we're opposites. One thing that is the same is that we have all of this content kind of built around each record, you know? So there's a similarity. We're both making music, so there's a similarity. It's kind of like, it's just funny like how I say this about Circa and I all the time, is that like we end up resolving in the same principles, but a lot of times the way that we would do things or attack things is very, very differently. And so I just love that it's worked out this way, because we didn't really talk about this before recording this episode. So I really am just hearing a lot of this for the very first time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, I think, you know, so for mine, I'm basically setting up the opposite, where it's like once all the organic stuff is kind of shaken out. I mean, the first single is going to be out. Gosh, I don't even know the date because I have so many deadlines between now and then. I'm looking. Okay, so first release is on April 17th. So I have from February 2nd to April 17th to be like, okay, I've got this amount of working capital. I have an estimate of what that is. And I'm going to be adding that to the chunk I have set aside to do the rest of the heavy lifting for the next 18 months. So I've got videos for the first, several singles, and, I'm kind of working on stuff since a lot of the production is still going on. I'm having to kind of mark these videos and make them videos that are not like, I'm singing along to the song right now. They're far more abstract videos that, still have my face in it, but aren't like in time, like we have a click going on while the video is running. So, that's kind of the plan, is that once that single heads out, I'm going to be running a, fan finder campaign and follow-up messenger and lead campaigns from there, as well as product campaigns retargeting people who end up on these product pages through those messenger and email kind of sequences. So the only thing is that there's going to be kind of an adapted green light warmth boosting. The fan finder is going to bring in truly cold people, and then once they fall into any of the buckets from any of the following videos, they're going to get served the next videos as warmth boosting with like long copy and different stuff than for the fan finders. So the fan finders for cold traffic will be kind of short, and I'm going to test a few different versions of copy, but most of it is going to be same kind of thing, like, oh, can you believe that they did this inside a fridge, whatever, so that'll be that stuff. And then all of the follow-ups, it's just constantly going to be giving people an opportunity to get to the next phase. So it's kind of like a crazy spiderweb map that I've done, but essentially like they'll get a fan finder, and then if they, then they'll get a video that's like a teaser for something that they can get through Messenger or email. And then once they get into there, they'll get, product offers and an offer for the membership as well. If they don't go into those conversions, they're going to be retargeted by the next release. So in theory, they're going to see something new from me every 3 weeks. So if they're on the fence about whether or not to purchase these things or get into the membership, there's going to be something there reminding them the whole time. So basically, as those singles come out, I have basically 2 distributors that I use, and one of them is through Cobalt Music, which is, they've got offices here in the U.S., but my contacts are in the U.K., and they release singles on a commission, which I don't normally do, but because I'm releasing 18 singles, not albums, that can be very expensive depending on what distributor you're using. And I usually use TuneCore. They charge $10 per single per year. And I'm like, I'm not paying $10 for every single one of these. So I'm using this commission-based distributor to put out these singles, and then I'm going to take those ISRCs and release them as albums on the album release dates as full works, and combine them all, which I don't know if you guys know, but like on Spotify, for example, if you release this single, this single, this single, and then you take the ISRCs from those 3 singles, you take those singles down, you put up an album with those ISRCs, you don't lose your play counts, it's still attributed to your profile the same way. So that's kind of going to be, then when the albums come out, they've got, all the listens and all the stuff that we've been garnering on them for the past 18 months. So yeah, it's going to be a huge project, and it's going to take over my life outside of Indepreneur, and within Indepreneur, for the next 18 months. But the idea is that at the end of that, it's like, okay, now when's the next album going to come out? And I'll be ready to have the next album coming.
Right.
That'll also be produced along the way. So batching as much of this content in front as possible is really important. But in theory, because one album is cinematic and one is remix, I'll have the opportunity to snag up people along the way, especially because a lot of the different songs have different vibes. There's going to be a whole slew of different kinds of people coming into this, which is really what's exciting for me, because I want the fan avatar for me to be widely varied. And right now I have 2 really strong demographics, and I just want to diversify it. So this is kind of my experimentation to get that done.
Yeah, definitely. On my end, it's I want to come out of the year with an audience for my collaborators. I think that the cast of people that I'm going to have the chance to create with is awesome. I think this the sort of spirit of the creation itself is awesome. And I think, it might need to be tweaked a little bit how we present it. But I think that as a consumer myself, if I saw something similar on YouTube, I'd be like, this is dope. I get to see inside the creation process of all these, funny people, and that's fun. So yeah. I kind of want to zero in on okay, how do we make that the best version of what it can be, and let's find an audience for it. And if I can do that, I know that there's a monetization chain for it. I'm not going to put too much pressure on it, but I'm pointing towards more of a digital membership and thinking of it as what if a musician were to monetize and create content like a YouTube creator?
Right.
And there's sort of a model for that. Andrew Huang does that.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to veer even more pure musicians and creators. So yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I'm really into that.
I think that if you're an indie out there and you're dealing with you've been through multiple album cycles, you have history with your audience, you're past that point where you're trying to dial in who's going to pay attention to me and why, and how do I make it the best, then I think that Corrin's is a great model to follow for, really for any stage, but especially if you're trying to jumpstart a fan base into a new long-term phase of high output. It's a great way to get back on the horse, is with the greatest hits, with some new takes on stuff, stirring some new kind of lifeblood, stirring the pot a little bit, and making the monetization chain really strong out the gate. And for me, it's sort of all about the acquisition chain. It's all about getting those fans.
Which I'm still doing too. I think if you're smart, you never become complacent about that, about developing new fans. You're definitely going to be putting more on it than I am, but
there's not the inertia of people who already dig you, who have a reason to talk about and think about you again,
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is great.
It can be a huge challenge. I'm excited to see how it kind of spins out for you, especially because you're trying so many different directions to get there.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, in terms of adding new people to the pie, I think like there's a few different channels. Like FanFinder's the number one. If I can create another one in the audiences of influencers, I will. I don't have like incredibly high hopes for it, but you never know. And
yeah.
And then Spotify. Like I know that if we can create consistent releases on Spotify that perform like my first two that I put out did, we'll be up to consistent discovery on the platform in no time. How much that will translate to discovery on like YouTube or Instagram remains to be seen, but behind me, a buddy of mine who gets a lot of like listens from like Israel and random countries on Spotify happens to be sending out shirts, and one of them is going to Egypt. So
nice.
So
that's so cool though.
Gives me faith for the Spotify discovery kind of mode.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, I think too. So, okay, what are the things you're doing that are the most risky of the stuff that you're going to be investing time and resources on?
I would say dollar-wise, like the influencer campaigns are most risky because I don't know what the traffic's like. I don't know if those people are going to stick around for the long term. And there's you're never going to find an influencer whose audience is exactly your audience. So,
right.
You know, it's risky, like in terms of like what's going to be the ultimate result. I'm not worried about it in terms of like, is it damaging to my brand? Like, I don't give a shit. You saw me on some voice aggregator and you don't like me for that reason. You weren't going to like me to begin with, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You're looking for reasons not to like me. So
yeah.
Don't worry about
it. But like money wise, that could be damaging. And then also like there's a potential for me to spend a lot of time on Instagram long copy and YouTube videos that doesn't go anywhere. But that's a risk I'm more willing to take after having done, you know, full stack over the last year.
Well, I think too, something that full stack really demonstrated too was like, I mean, obviously if you look at full stack creative a year ago and look at it now, it looks totally different, you know, like the craft has developed, you know? And so I think people don't really understand, like the more that you do this stuff, like the reason why Circa and I know so much about marketing in theory, right? So much, which we don't know anything, but you know, we know more than some indies do. Yeah. And the reason why is because we've run a crap ton of traffic on our own stuff and on other people's stuff. So like, you're only going to get better as you do it more.
Yeah.
If you wait until it's like, okay, all my dollars are right here, and if this doesn't work, then I got to quit and go, you know, work at Target. Like that's not going to work because you can't expect anything to shake out like that, you know, where like the first time you try it without a lot of practice, you're going to win. Like it doesn't work like that. There's
one element of our job as an entrepreneur that's like, guys, we got to stop doing things that we know aren't going to be good. Right? Like, but then sometimes every once in a while you do, like you take a job or you work with a client where it's like, it doesn't look like it's going to work out. And then like, you know, it surprises you, or you try out a channel that just, you don't know if it's going to work out and it surprises you. So It's sort of like this insane demand of like, okay, shield yourself from like making the same mistake twice, but also like go try new things and even things that you've tried before. So, yeah.
Yeah. Still give yourself. I mean, I think if I've learned anything in the time that I've been with Indepreneur, and I think like with the Army sponsorship, I took risks there in that like I could possibly go to jail for doing something that wasn't technically in regulation.
Right.
Right? You know, there could have been moments, but those weren't the same kind of risks. Right. But like if you don't, you know, I've learned more and more at Indepreneur to find, you know, like Cirque said, try not to make the same mistakes, but also if you don't take risks and you only want to do something that's a sure thing, you're in the wrong career field, you know? Like music isn't the place for you. And marketing's not the place for you.
Like ultimately I could waste, like I'm going to be spending about 10 to 12 hours every week on this stuff. And I'm going to spend 12 grand. And that's a lot of money when you add up those hours in terms of like what I could bill those hours for. But
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I could totally lose that. But I think regardless, I'm going to come out with a crap load of songs and a lot of footage. and like a huge archive. And so like, even if no one cares, I'll still be pretty psyched about it. Like, it'd be weird if no one cares about it. I think it'll be good.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it took me 10 years to get that archive because I didn't do what you're doing now, which is diligently creating content. So like, it's a good thing I've been an artist for 10 years and had other people, like filming me or whatever,
Right.
because otherwise I wouldn't even have that. I didn't document this process very well myself. So yeah, I mean, props to you, because I think that it's amazing how far people want to, go to learn about your history when they discover you. And I think, that's something that's really taken for granted by a lot of artists, is just like, they want to know your origin story. Then they don't just want you to tell it to them. They want to go find it. They want to see it. Like just the other day, YouTube was like, hey, you should watch this video. And it was like Drew Barrymore on the Jimmy Carson show when she was 7. And like, I'm not a Drew Barrymore fan, and I don't know why YouTube thought I would like that, but I sure as hell watched it. And I was like, gosh, look how she's so similar to how she is now as an adult, in personality and whatever. My point is that there's still something fun about that, that there's something from her from over 30 years ago that is now, I can watch it now, and see what she was like then, or what was going on then. So, yeah, I think you won't regret that time, no matter what, because, it's going to be fun. It's going to be cool to look back.
I also think like, I would have been more coy about this, or like maybe more sheepish about this like years ago, but like, I don't think it's any longer like, it's not an excuse like to just say like, I should just be able to be a musician. Like, well, you kind of shouldn't. Like, I don't know. Like,
yeah.
Like every comedian right now that's successful is also a podcaster. Why can't they just be a comedian?
Right.
It's like, because they're tired of doing morning radio, and this is easier and funner. Like, so.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think creating content is like an awesome challenge that's kind of been put on all of us. And it's a fun challenge to undertake.
For sure. Well, I think, the jobs that die out fastest are the ones that where the world doesn't require them to evolve, Yeah. Because they're no longer applicable. And like, part of being a musician now is learning this stuff and creating content. Like, you're no longer just a musician ever again. Like, you're a creator, and you're going to have more than your album to, get people to stay invested. That's just not enough.
Yeah.
And so the same thing with comedians. Like, now you can't just do that. It's just not the job description anymore. And that's just the world now, So I know like Madison Avenue marketing style guys, they're struggling. The reason why labels are struggling is because the guys who did marketing forever are like, this isn't how we used to do this. And if they don't adapt, they'll die, And a lot of guys have retired out of it because they didn't want to learn these new things. So don't be that guy. As far as my risky things,
yes,
I am hiring a PR company
Ooh.
that I love, that I know. I'm not going to tell.
I didn't say who, I said ooh.
But, oh. Who? No, they're a PR company that they've worked with a ton of bands in the past. I actually had the opportunity to work with them when I was doing Army stuff. I mean, they're music publicists for sure. But the idea is that they know the scene and they know a lot of people and can help me rewrite this story. And I think for me, the biggest reason why, if at any time I was going to invest in PR, it would be right now, because believe it or not, like as I come back out of the woodwork, though I've got my core fans, I've got a lot of haters. I've got a lot of military lovers and haters, and I've got a lot of like, Warped Tour scene lovers and haters. Rage Against the Machine fans are not a fan of mine.
Why?
And they are loud. Why? So, and there are there are just different crowds that might start popping up again. And so I'd like to put a spin on the narrative for the time I spent in the military, the stuff I did there, and how that does and does not apply to what I'm doing now. So there's a very specific reason why I'm bringing on PR. It's not in a general like, hey, get me placed on podcasts and blogs kinds of things. I mean, that will be part of it, but a bigger thing is that I need to rewrite the narrative on a career that's been really swung around a lot. So I'm spending money there. I'm also spending money on a sync agent. So I'm hiring people for placements, like I don't mean playlist placements. I mean like big placements. And if this guy didn't come, recommended by a lot of really of people I respect and that I know he's done work with them, it probably would be different. But the cinematic album is, the whole idea, or the inspiration is like kind of really, dark, like Game of Thrones, Westworld, like, huge orchestral kind of stuff. And I realized into it, I was like, well, if the inspiration is these really awesome orchestral themes, and I'm legit being inspired by great soundtrack writing like Hans Zimmer and like getting nerdy into this, maybe it would be a good thing to pitch these for soundtracks because, and that wasn't really the idea of it when I, compiled it, but, there's a really great place where it's a source of revenue. And if you're working PR in tandem, there can be a lot of success had with that. They do, if you're going to play that game, they do run hand in hand. So that's, and by breaking it into singles, it actually makes it even better because it's much harder to pitch, an album or multiple songs off an album to these kinds of people than you do with a single record that's, hot and coming out right now. So even though placements won't happen for 6 months to a year later, if they happen, but you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's kind of the stuff that I'm taking a risk on. I'm also going to be advertising to Spotify.
You're going to be doing Spotify ads?
Yeah. Like on the Spotify platform. And I have a theory that I want to test it before I get into it. But yeah, actual Spotify ads.
So you can target your own listeners is the only thing that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Because then I can get them off of the platform. If I create discovery there, I can point them somewhere else. Be like, hey, you like my music now. I know you're listening to it. I know because I targeted this ad at you.
Yeah.
Come over here because Spotify won't let me talk to you.
Right. I don't know. It's funny because I've considered like doing that in messenger campaigns of being like, listen, Facebook is not going to let me send you messages the same way. So I need you to give me your email address. And like putting that in a JSON ad. Yeah. And then, obviously Facebook's gonna be like, you can't mention Facebook, So, but yeah, no, but I've got some other ideas. I've got a couple featured artists on here and, so there might be some chitter chatter. And honestly, like a lot of the ads that I've heard on Spotify, which, I'm a paid listener on Spotify, but sometimes I'll log out and go in as my, super secret squirrel account and listen to ads. But it's like, they're really just not good.
They're not direct response.
They're not. Yeah. Well, they don't even elicit a response. They're just like, oh, we're going to run ads here. Like we run ads on local television, on regional television, on national television, and it's just syndicated to Spotify the way everything else is, So I want to see if I experiment with some Spotify ads that are truly more engaging, and experiment with different pieces of songs, see what comes out of that. I know the click rate will be miserable, but I think that there's some potential there, that there's got to be a way to make this worth something. Is basically what I'm saying. So I want to hack a way to do it. So we'll see what comes out. It's not a huge portion of my budget, but it is something that I think indies would be surprised to know that I'll be experimenting.
I think a lot of people are using Spotify ads to get more listens on Spotify. I don't think that many people have used it to get their listeners off of Spotify. And I have that's my hypothesis.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but I'm going to be using Spotify playlisting this year. I didn't think to mention that, but some of my songs fall in this like bedroom pop category, and I happen to know that that's like the jam. that's the wave, quote unquote. And so
It is the jam. And bedroom pop is like the opposite of anything I ever would ever write.
I'm actually gonna record probably an acoustic album because it's like a layup. It's for me to just cut like a bunch of acoustic tracks and then throw it into like bedroom pop with some light production and see what's
that's
up.
what I originally thought I was gonna do with this thing, and then I was like, no, like I don't know how to make anything simple. So it turned into a dual disc with SoundCloud-esque stuff and soundtrack and all. It's like, but originally I was going to be an acoustic greatest hits. Remember that?
Yep.
So
I do.
I'm for that. Yeah. So, any closing surprises with your marketing, or have you bared all?
No, that is it. Starting around March, I'm gonna start releasing songs on a weekly, sometimes bi-weekly basis. It's going to come with video content. It's going to be on 3 different channels: Facebook, IG, YouTube. Eventually, I'm going to start offering assets from those creations, along with the documentary song series that will already be out, and try to get subscribers through that. And then at the end of the year / beginning of next year, looking to do digital membership. All of my new fans will probably come from Fan Finder, but maybe some from influencer campaigns and Spotify. And that's it.
Yeah. Keep me posted on that.
I will. Well, you can follow along weekly on the grounds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody follow along. No, I'm just really interested to see how that all goes, because I know that that's something that is probably just an ageism thing. And I'm like, man, this is stupid. But like, I'm being a grumpy old man about it.
About what?
Well, influencer stuff.
Influencers, look, I feel you is the thing. I totally get it. I do feel you. I think...
No, I know you get
I have
it.
rants from like 2 or 3 years ago where I'm just like, why would you pay for someone else's audience? And totally.
Well, also, like, it's not even just that, just like the notion that influencers exist is, that's why I'm grumpy old man about it. Where I'm like, I can't believe
they
this
exist.
is a job for people. No, I'm aware.
It's a job.
I'm aware they're there.
The cool thing is that it's not a job for people. It's a job for kids who wouldn't have had a job otherwise.
True. Yeah, until they get 15 million subscribers, and then it is their job. But,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so yeah, you'll have to tell me how that goes. That will be something I won't be taking a risk on, I don't think, unless you see some like magic, and I'll be like, okay, well, let me find where my people on influencers would be, and then I'll copy you.
I think I will see at least something somewhere, because there's like, I've seen enough people doing it and seen direct results enough to where it's like, I think there will be something there.
But also, like, what's to lose? Like, you've got all of these other things that are going to win.
I'm not going to do a lot of it.
Yeah. So, like, take some risks. I'm into it.
We'll see. We'll see what's up.
Yeah. All right. Did we?
And then you'll be back. You'll be delivering case studies on some of your bigger projects, I assume.
Yeah.
Right here, and maybe on Full Stack as well.
Yeah. Hopefully. Yeah. There's definitely. I've got so many things in the works. One thing I do want to like kind of tease people with, and I know we'll wrap up shortly here, guys, but I'm going to be doing basically documenting a lot of this content is going to be twofold, because I can, gather like the creation process of all of these merch items. Like that content is going to be part of the ads that I run for these different merch items. Is actually showing like my personal touch, like real time me putting stuff together and showing what the product is like once they're all released. So, but I'm also at the same camera that's capturing that content is actually its first priority is actually gathering information for Full Stack Creative. And so we're going to have an arc on Full Stack Creative about creating your own merch. So it's not even just a case study opportunity. It's like I can share with you like how I'm making some of these things happen, especially because in a short run, or if you're only creating things as needed to sell, it can be helpful to see like how someone does that and how easy it is. I'm not a seamstress. I'm not a painter. I can't draw a stick person, and I'm still going to be able to be doing this stuff with my merch. So I'll be sharing that and whatever comes out on the back end. If it's a brilliant, spectacular failure or if it's an amazingly executed perfection, I'll be sure to share it either way.
Hell yeah. Well, I hope that this arc has been helpful for you guys out there. Like, if you're worried that there's some kind of grander scheme behind the curtain, it's not. It's a lot of stuff we always talk about. For me, I'm in that beginning phase. My expectations are not that high, and I'm seeing this as an opportunity to have like a creative playground. And Corrin, she's got higher expectations because she has that history to her career and is able to capitalize on some opportunities there. And I think a lot of indies worry like, oh man, how am I going to plan out like this master plan? And it's like, look, we can establish a general direction. It's not that intense.
Right. Yeah, it's totally true. And I think that's why I like
things will change.
Yeah, exactly. And some people, they're like, I'm going to quit my job and do music. And, I've only done music like 100% my job 2 years of my life. 2 years of my over 10-year career. Yeah. I did just music, and I still found a way to make it work, to tour, and for 6 years I couldn't even sell anything, So I think that if you can figure out a way to do something that you love, like we do, that isn't necessarily just your music, but can inform your creative process. And then when you come into these things, you're like, I can take risks because I'm not living off of exactly this. I'm living off of something else that feeds this. You're not a musician as a hobby. That's not what that is. It's that you're, waiting for something to eke out over the other, but you're doing all the things you love. So, I would encourage any musician who's listening to this and being like, dang, like you guys neither of you are millionaires from your music. Like, why am I listening to you guys? I think you really got to think about just creating in every element of your life and figuring out ways to, monetize that, in similar way that Cirque's talking about with his,
Yeah, but I think, to be honest with you, like no one is making $1 million off of their music.
Right.
Like they're making maybe $1 million off of being a music celebrity, but that's like 90% a celebrity and like 10% music.
Yeah, that's totally true.
And people who are making a full living off of just music, like I know a lot of them, they're not living like some lavish lifestyle, but they get to do just like music every night, like gigging.
Well, they're like producers or studio musicians or,
Totally. Yeah. Like, living in the studio or.
Yeah. That's where the money is. You know what I mean? If you want to be an artist and make money, nah, probably never. But if you want to like play some sick funk jazz bass, you'll probably support the biggest pop stars on the planet, just by going out and touring, and then you'll be rich.
My favorite example, and the one that I'm kind of striving for, is the person who is studio musician, touring musician occasionally, and content creator, and merchandiser.
Yeah,
like that's my sort of like cross section that I'm looking for.
I'm into it.
But like heavy emphasis on content creator, I think that's a huge thing. Like after being in the world of like people who are monetizing off of YouTube and studying them, I think that could be a major component to like those 4 streams that make up a real living. So yeah, hopefully that's it.
There's your inspo, guys. Go do everything possible.
Go do all the things. Yeah.
All the things.
But yeah, hopefully this was helpful to all of you guys. We're back to like regularly scheduled programming with themed months in March, but we're going to take some time here throughout the rest of January and February to cover some stuff that doesn't necessarily fit into a month-long theme or like an episode arc. So we're excited for everything that's to come here on Creative Juice, and thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye-bye.
East Coast, West Coast,